Welcome to our channel HD Rare Coin 111, your go-to spot for uncovering the incredible world of rare US coins. If you've ever wondered if your old pennies, nickels, or dimes are worth more than face value, you're about to find out. In today's video, we'll be exploring some truly rare coins and their shocking values. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. So let's jump in. Top 1. When most people think of American coins, they picture pennies, dimes, and quarters. But there's one coin that quietly holds some of the most fascinating secrets in US coinage history: the Jefferson nickel. It's small, unassuming, and has been in circulation since 1938. But one specific year stands out as a symbol of wartime history, rare minting choices, and potential fortune: 1943. That's right. A 5-cent coin from 1943 could be worth far more than its face value, if you know what to look for. The year 1943 was a time of global conflict. The United States was deeply involved in World War II. Resources were scarce, metals were rationed, and every part of American industry was being redirected to support the war effort. That included the U.S. Mint. In an effort to save nickel for the war, a crucial metal used in making weapons and machinery, the Mint made a drastic decision that would affect the composition of the Jefferson nickel. Instead of the usual 75% copper and 25% nickel blend, the 1943 Jefferson nickels were made from a unique wartime alloy: 56% copper, 35% silver, and 9% manganese. This wasn't just a cost-saving measure, it was a patriotic move, ensuring that precious nickel could be used where it was needed most. These nickels became known as Silver War nickels, and they're instantly recognizable thanks to one very distinctive feature: a large mint mark placed above Monticello on the reverse of the coin. That oversized mint mark wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was intentional. The Mint needed to easily distinguish these wartime alloy nickels from regular ones, and placing a large letter PD or S above the building did exactly that. For coin collectors today, this mint mark is a telltale sign that the coin is part of the historic wartime series. But not all 1943 Jefferson nickels are the same, and this is where things get very interesting. Some of the 1943 nickels have errors. And in the world of numismatics, errors can mean big money. One of the most sought after is the overdate variety, where traces of a previous year's date appear underneath the 1943 date due to a reused die. There are also doubling errors, where parts of the coin's design, such as the lettering or Monticello's columns, appear slightly duplicated due to a misaligned strike. These small imperfections, invisible to the average person, make a world of difference to collectors. Even more exciting are coins mistakenly struck on the wrong planchet, sometimes a leftover from another denomination or even another year. These off-metal errors are extremely rare and usually occurred during transitions between coin batches. One such mistake turned a common wartime nickel into a one-of-a-kind collectible. Imagine finding a nickel struck on a blank meant for a penny or even a foreign coin. These kinds of errors are highly prized because they represent anomalies the Mint never intended to release. But rarity alone isn't what turns a coin into a treasure. Condition matters, more than most people realize. Most nickels from the 1940s have seen decades of circulation. They're worn, scratched, dulled by time. But a small handful of 1943 Jefferson nickels have been discovered in extraordinary condition, uncirculated, with sharp details and shimmering luster that makes them look like they just left the mint. These are the coins that command attention. These are the coins that change lives. The demand for high-grade examples continues to grow, as collectors hunt for the perfect piece of wartime history. Some have spent years searching through rolls, jars, and estate collections just for the chance to discover one flawless coin. For many, the 1943 Jefferson nickel is more than just money. It's a story, a connection to America's past, and a tangible link to the sacrifices made during one of the most pivotal times in history. Now, let's talk about the moment everyone's been waiting for. What's the true value of one of these extraordinary 1943 nickels? Most war nickels might be worth a few dollars in circulated condition. Some might reach into the hundreds if they carry errors or rare varieties. But a select few, those with stunning mint state preservation, rare characteristics, and documented authenticity, have shattered expectations in the auction world. One particular 1943 Jefferson nickel, featuring a well-documented minting error, combined with nearly flawless condition, stunned collectors and made headlines when it hit the auction block. Bidders from around the country recognized its uniqueness. It wasn't just a coin, it was a piece of American history, frozen in time, preserved through war, and brought into the present as a gleaming reminder of rarity and resilience. And when the final bid was cast and the gavel fell, this tiny 5-cent piece sold for an incredible $125,000. Yes. A coin that began its life as a humble wartime necessity became one of the most valuable nickels ever sold, fetching a price of $125,000. So the next time you come across an old nickel, take a closer look. Check the date. Examine the mint mark above Monticello. Look for signs of doubling, unusual metal tones, or anything that sets it apart. Because hidden in change, tucked away in drawers and forgotten jars, may be one of the greatest coin finds of your life. And if you're lucky, you might just uncover the next 1943 Jefferson nickel worth $125,000. Top 2. We're diving deep into one of the most overlooked yet surprisingly valuable coins in American numismatics, the 1975 Jefferson nickel. Now, on the surface, the 1975 Jefferson nickel doesn't look like much. It's a coin you've probably handled thousands of times. With Thomas Jefferson's familiar profile on the obverse and Monticello, his famous Virginia home, on the reverse, the design feels timeless. It's been a fixture in American currency since 1938. But just like people, not all coins are created equal. And some carry secrets that are worth far more than you'd ever expect. The 1970s were a transformative time for the U.S. Mint. The economy was volatile, inflation was rising, and changes in minting technology were being introduced. With all this going on behind the scenes, not every coin came out perfectly. And it's these imperfections, these rare minting anomalies, that fuel the passions of collectors all over the world. Among the coins minted in 1975, a select few Jefferson nickels slipped through the cracks with rare errors, experimental planchets, and extremely high-grade conditions that would eventually make them legendary. One of the first things that makes a 1975 Jefferson nickel stand out is the condition in which it was preserved. Most coins from that year were heavily circulated. They'd been worn down by time, scratches, dull surfaces, and general wear from decades of use. But a few examples were somehow kept in pristine, untouched condition. No smudges, no wear, no loss of detail. Just sharp design, beautiful luster, and full mint brilliance. These high-grade nickels, when authenticated and graded by professional services, are rare enough to make serious waves at auction. But rarity isn't always about condition. Sometimes it's about what went wrong. Some 1975 nickels have surfaced with fascinating minting errors. These aren't mistakes you notice at a glance, but for collectors, they're pure gold. A double die, for example, can create a faint shadow effect in the lettering or date, giving the appearance of two slightly offset impressions. Another known error involves off-center strikes, where the image of Jefferson or Monticello is shifted, sometimes dramatically, away from the center of the coin. These types of errors weren't supposed to happen. They're accidents of the minting process, and it's their rarity that drives up their value. And then there are the truly extraordinary cases. Coins that were struck on the wrong planchets entirely. Planchets meant for foreign coins or other U.S. denominations. Imagine a nickel struck on a penny's copper planchet, giving the coin a reddish tone and unusual weight. Or a 1975 nickel with a clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin is missing because of a faulty punch. These mistakes are not just collectible, they're historic. Now, let's talk about the mint marks. In 1975, nickels were struck at two major mints, Philadelphia, which used no mint mark at the time, and Denver, which used a small D on the obverse. While most of these mint marks are standard, some rare specimens have surfaced with signs of a repunched mint mark, where the D was struck more than once, causing a shadowed or doubled appearance. These subtle details often go unnoticed to the untrained eye, but to an experienced collector, they can mean the difference between a common coin and a valuable rarity. There's something exciting about the idea that a small 5-cent coin could hold such enormous value. And the best part? These coins are still out there. Not in museums, not behind glass cases, but in everyday places, inside old coffee tins, inherited coin collections, rolls from the bank, and even in your own spare change. Collectors and treasure hunters know the thrill of the hunt. They know that every time they flip through a handful of nickels, they're chasing the chance to uncover something special. Something historic. Something that the mint never meant to release, but did. And among these discoveries, there's one 1975 Jefferson nickel that has become truly unforgettable. A coin so rare, so well preserved, and so unique in its striking, that it shattered expectations and took the spotlight at a major numismatic auction. Certified as a top-grade specimen with a recognized error, it stood as a shining example of what makes coin collecting such a thrilling pursuit. When the bidding began, no one could predict just how high the offers would climb. But as the tension rose and collectors from around the country vied for this remarkable piece of American coinage, the final number left the room in stunned silence. Because that single 1975 Jefferson nickel, originally worth just 5 cents, was sold for an astonishing $105,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that most people wouldn't look at twice ended up being worth $105,000. That's why people check their change. That's why coin collecting continues to grow. Because with the right knowledge, a little patience, and a sharp eye, anyone can stumble across something truly valuable. So the next time you come across a 1975 Jefferson nickel, don't rush to spend it. Take a moment. Look closely. It might just be the coin that changes your life. Top 3. We're going to explore one such hidden gem, the 1985 Jefferson nickel. You might think it's just another 5-cent piece, but what if I told you this common coin could be worth a small fortune? The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American currency since 1938, featuring the dignified profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic Monticello estate on the reverse. It's a coin that millions of Americans have grown up with. But not all Jefferson nickels are created equal. And the 1985 version? Well, it has a few surprises that have shocked even the most seasoned coin collectors. Let's set the stage. In the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins every year. The economy was recovering, technology was evolving, and minting processes were becoming more efficient, but not flawless. The 1985 Jefferson nickel was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, identified by either no mint mark or a small d on the obverse. At first glance, there was nothing extraordinary about the coin. But as time went on, collectors began noticing strange anomalies. Subtle, but significant differences that separated a handful of these nickels from the rest. Some 1985 nickels were discovered with unusual minting errors, rare mechanical flaws that occurred during the striking process. There were examples of off-center strikes, where Jefferson's face was pushed too far to one side, partially off the coin. Others had double dies, resulting in blurred or shadowed letters, especially in the inscriptions. "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." These errors weren't obvious to the general public, but to numismatists, they were golden opportunities. Perhaps the most intriguing of all were the coins struck on the wrong planchets. Imagine a nickel that isn't the right size, the right color, or even the right metal. That's what happened in a few extremely rare cases when Jefferson nickels were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other coins, sometimes a penny planchet, sometimes a foreign coin. These unusual pieces are the result of an extremely rare mix-up inside the mint, and their scarcity has turned them into collectors' trophies. But even without errors, condition plays a massive role in a coin's value. Most 1,985 nickels saw years, if not decades, of circulation. They've been dropped, scuffed, scraped, and worn down until the finer details are barely visible. But a select few avoided that fate. These are the coins that were kept safely away, untouched, with full mint luster and razor-sharp details. In the grading world, these are known as mint state coins, and the best of them are awarded grades like MS66, MS67, or even higher. The higher the grade, the rarer the coin becomes, and the more collectors are willing to pay. So, what happens when you combine a rare minting error with pristine, untouched condition? You get a coin that defies expectations, a coin that takes a back pocket nickel and turns it into a high stakes prize. And in the case of the 1985 Jefferson nickel, that exact combination came to life. It began when a collector stumbled across a 1985 nickel that didn't look quite right. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, but under magnification, it revealed subtle doubling in the lettering and a surface so flawless it sparkled like a mirror. Experts were called in, grading services confirmed the condition, and auction houses lined up to list it. What followed was a whirlwind of bidding, with collectors recognizing the coin's rarity, beauty, and historical significance. As the auction unfolded, the bids climbed higher and higher, far beyond what most people would ever expect for a 5-cent coin. And finally, when the final gavel dropped, the coin sold for an astonishing amount. That 1985 Jefferson nickel, struck with a rare error and preserved in near-perfect mint state, was purchased for an incredible $75,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A 5-cent coin, often ignored or tossed into jars, was valued at $75,000. This is why people still search through pocket change. This is why coin collecting remains one of the most exciting and unpredictable hobbies in the world. Because you never know which coin might be the rare one. You never know when you'll come across the piece that slipped through history's fingers unnoticed, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little patience to find it. So the next time you get a handful of change, don't toss it aside. Take a moment. Look closer. Because that ordinary-looking nickel from 1985, it just might be worth $75,000. Top 4. In the heart of American history, nestled between the echoes of war and the rise of a new generation, a simple 5-cent coin was struck, one that would, over time, capture the attention of numismatists and collectors worldwide. The year was 1964, and the United States Mint was in full production mode, churning out Jefferson nickels to meet the demands of a bustling economy and an ever-growing population. But among the millions that rolled off the presses that year, a few were destined for something far greater than ordinary pocket change. Today, we delve deep into the fascinating world of the 1964 Jefferson nickel, a coin whose unassuming surface hides stories of design, scarcity, and shocking value. At first glance, the 1964 Jefferson nickel may seem like just another coin, indistinguishable from its siblings that jingled in the pockets of everyday Americans during the 1960s. Featuring the stately profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, designed by the talented Felix Schlag, the coin is a continuation of a design that had remained largely unchanged since its debut in 1938. The reverse, showcasing Jefferson's beloved Monticello, also sculpted by Schlag, gives the nickel a classic American aesthetic. Yet, while the design is timeless, it's what lies beneath the surface, and inside the details, that elevates this particular year to legendary status in the world of coin collecting. To understand why the 1964 Jefferson nickel holds such fascination, one must first consider the context of its creation. The early 1960s saw a surge in coin hoarding, driven by the rising value of silver in dimes, quarters, and half-dollars. Although the nickel contained no silver, the fear of devaluation and the uncertainty of the economy led many to stockpile even base metal coins. As a result, the United States Mint dramatically increased production, and 1964 would go down as the year with the highest mintage of Jefferson nickels in history. Over 2.8 billion nickels were produced between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, an astronomical number that, ironically, makes the year seem common at first glance. But not all 1964 nickels are created equal. Among the billions minted, there exist rare varieties, minting errors, and high-grade specimens that elevate the value of this humble coin to staggering levels. Collectors hunt tirelessly for these anomalies, nickels with doubled dies, full steps on Monticello, and sharp, crisp details that have survived the ravages of time. The full steps designation, in particular, is one of the holy grails for Jefferson nickel enthusiasts. It refers to the steps on Monticello's front being fully struck and showing 5 or 6 distinct lines, a feat difficult to achieve due to worn dies and high-speed minting processes. Finding a 1964 Jefferson nickel with full steps is rare. Finding one in immaculate, uncirculated condition with full steps and perfect luster is even rarer. These coins, untouched by circulation, retain their original brilliance and sharpness. For a coin to survive more than half a century without a single nick or scratch, maintaining its original mint glory, is nothing short of a miracle. And when such a coin appears at auction, it sparks bidding wars that would make your head spin. The market for rare coins is often fueled by passion, history, and the thrill of the hunt. The 1964 Jefferson nickel embodies all three. Over the years, collectors have come to appreciate the finer details of this coin, not only for its design and rarity but also for what it represents, a snapshot of America at a crossroads, captured in nickel and copper. This coin passed through the hands of soldiers, teachers, factory workers, and children, quietly witnessing the unfolding of the American story. But a few escaped that fate. A few were saved, preserved, protected. And today, they shine brighter than ever. Perhaps most fascinating is how a coin that was once so common can become a treasure of immense value. It's a reminder that the smallest things can carry the greatest worth, not just in money, but in meaning. It speaks to the collector's eye, to the patience required to sift through mountains of change in search of that one perfect piece. It's not just about the nickel, it's about the journey, the story, the discovery. In the world of numismatics, provenance and condition are everything. And when a 1964 Jefferson nickel with perfect strike, full steps, and impeccable preservation is found, it becomes a centerpiece in any collection. Auction houses know this well, and when such a coin hits the market, collectors come prepared. The excitement, the bids, the silence before the gavel falls, these are the moments that define the true magic of coin collecting. There was such a moment not too long ago. A 1964 Jefferson nickel, struck to perfection, preserved in mint state with the rare full steps designation, surfaced at auction. It wasn't just another coin. It was the pinnacle of what the Jefferson nickel could be. The bids flew in, fast and fierce. Collectors from around the world recognized its rarity, its historical importance, and its flawless beauty. And when the dust settled and the auctioneer's gavel finally fell, it sold for $155,000. Would you ever imagine that a 5-cent coin, a humble piece of metal from 1964, could be worth that much? That's the thrill of numismatics. That's the legacy of the Jefferson nickel. And that's why every coin in your pocket just might be a piece of history, waiting to be discovered. Top 5. In a world where the tiniest treasures often hold the biggest surprises, the Jefferson nickel of 1987 quietly tells a story few are prepared for. At first glance, it's a simple 5-cent piece, something you might casually toss in a jar, hand to a cashier without thought, or find wedged between couch cushions. But in the hands of a passionate collector or a keen-eyed numismatist, the 1987 Jefferson nickel transforms from everyday change into a key that unlocks a tale of design, precision, rarity, and unexpected value. To truly understand the significance of the 1987 Jefferson nickel, we have to journey back to its origins. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel. Felix Schlage's portrait of the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, became the face of the new 5-cent coin. His neoclassical home, Monticello, took its place on the reverse. Year after year, the design endured, becoming one of the longest-running coin series in American history. And while most Jefferson nickels are familiar and abundant, certain years stand apart, not because of how many were made, but because of how few were preserved in perfect condition. The year 1987 was an intriguing one for American coinage. Though not as historically charged as some earlier decades, it represented a time of quiet transition. The Cold War was nearing its end, the digital age was just beginning to hum beneath the surface, and the U.S. Mint was steadily producing coins to feed a thriving economy. Over 560 million Jefferson nickels were minted that year between Philadelphia and Denver. On the surface, that massive number would suggest that this coin is anything but rare. But the truth lies in the details, the tiniest, most precise details that can make the difference between a common coin and a jaw-dropping collectible. Collectors don't just seek out any old nickel. They chase perfection. They hunt for coins with strong, full strikes, especially those with clearly defined steps on Monticello. This detail, known in the coin world as full steps, is incredibly hard to find on nickels from the 1980s due to the condition of the dies used during production. Many coins from this era suffered from weak strikes, blurred detail, and uneven surfaces. This is why a Jefferson nickel from 1987 that displays razor-sharp detail, brilliant uncirculated luster, and full steps is considered a rare treasure. These aren't coins that slipped into cash registers and vending machines. These are coins that were set aside immediately, protected, cherished, and graded at the highest levels by professional services. Imagine the excitement of finding such a coin. It may have rested quietly in a mint set for decades, unseen by the public eye, its surfaces untouched by time or handling. Then one day, a collector opens an old envelope, lifts the protective case, and sees it, a perfect 1987 Jefferson nickel, glowing with the same shine it had the day it left the mint. Under magnification, the steps on Monticello are complete and crisp, the details of Jefferson's face are smooth and finely etched, and the fields of the coin are clean, without scratches or blemishes. It is, in every way, a masterpiece. But why does condition matter so much? In the world of numismatics, rarity is not always about how many coins were made, but how many survived in pristine state. Millions of 1987 nickels were produced, but very few exist in top-grade mint state with full steps. These coins are extraordinarily difficult to find, especially when they must meet the highest grading standards, often MS 67 or higher. The margin for error is almost non-existent. One tiny nick, one faint scratch, and the value plummets. But when perfection is found, it commands attention. Auction houses and elite collectors recognize this rarity. In recent years, we've seen coins of modest beginnings break records and expectations. The 1987 Jefferson nickel, in supreme condition, is one of those sleepers in the hobby, often overlooked by beginners but fiercely pursued by experts. And once such a coin is certified and enters the marketplace, the bidding can be intense. It's not just about owning a coin, it's about owning a miracle of preservation, a moment of numismatic magic captured in metal. What makes the Jefferson nickel series so beloved is not just its longevity, or its aesthetic. It's the thrill of the hunt. Each coin is a puzzle, a mystery, a relic of its time. The 1987 issue reminds us that even in the most unassuming places, greatness can be found. Maybe you have one in your drawer, tucked away in an old bankroll. Maybe it passed through your hands at some point unnoticed. Or maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for you to find it. In this age of digital wallets and contactless payments, physical coins are slowly becoming relics. But for those who still cherish the clang of metal and the beauty of minting craftsmanship, the 1987 Jefferson nickel offers a link to a tangible past, and potentially, an astonishing future. Because one perfect example of this very coin, graded at the highest level, preserved against all odds, with every fine detail intact, once sold at a major coin auction. And the final hammer price stunned everyone watching. That humble 5-cent piece realized a staggering total of $65,000.